Hey, good morning. It is 10:42. It is April 29th. And April 29th, that would put us on day 10 here in Thailand. And my days of rest are over. I had 3 good nights sleep. Um, and I'm ready and itching to hit the road again. I feel stagnant if I stay in one spot too long. Um, you know, uh, Someone actually asked, does it get tiring to constantly be traveling, on the road? And I wasn't sure if he meant within these last 2 years that I've been traveling. Well, not quite 2 years. I'm still under that. We did a little math the other day, me and some guy I was talking to, and he's like, "No, you're still under 2 years, so that's good." No, it hasn't yet because it's a different style. I mean, it really is a different feel, and there's a difference between traveling on the inside the United States and outside the United States. Outside of the United States, doing world travel is so much more complicated because now I'm the foreigner, and that was a really hard thing to get used to. But we'll save that subject for later because me going out and starting to do world travel was actually because of a financial reason. Just because it was just cheaper to stay outside than go back into the United States, but I'll get into those weeds later. But his comment about, doesn't it get tiring, and it does, especially when you first start this lifestyle, like I kept going from. This was a part-time lifestyle when I first started. I first started when I was 17. I couldn't. I talked about this. I ran away from home even though I was 17. You know what I'm saying? Me and my mother was butting heads and stuff. And I lived in the back of my very first car that I picked up, which was a '75 Firebird, and it had double bucket back seats, which was a terrible idea because no matter how much you built up the clothing inside the bucket, you just couldn't get rid of that feeling of that bump right there. And I just kept stacking up my clothes until I was basically parallel with the back window. And since it was being refurbished to like factory floor style from the people I bought it off, I got it really cheap because he needed to go into the military like within 3 days. And yeah, he had no choice and sold it to me for like $800. A beautiful car. But I wasn't trying to take advantage of him. That was the only money I had. So I only spent 8 months, being homeless on the streets of Olympia, Washington that way. And the way I ended up making money was I was actually selling weed. This was before it was legal. So I was selling little, like buying an eighth and breaking it down into little, like, I'm talking about what I used to do. So, because everybody needs to be able to make money somehow. And there's begging, like I said, and stuff like this. But one of the alternatives to begging is selling something like weed. I'm not talking about the more harmful drugs and stuff like that, because with the harder, crazier drugs, you get harder and crazier people. So weeds was always like the hippie crowd and stuff like this, and that was something that most travelers do not. I mean, they usually always have weed on them, so they're never going to turn down an opportunity to sell a little of it and have some food money, and that's just how it is. But that was kind of my income for the 8 months and stuff, doing that. Living in the back of my car, hanging out with the street kids and stuff. I was a street kid myself. And, but yeah, winter starts rolling around and you move back indoors. So the 8 months, I moved back to California, back to the Sacramento area, and rekindled with my girlfriend. The one I kind of left behind, we rekindled. We didn't leave on bad terms. So when we got back together, it was all lovey-dovey again, right? And we moved in together in Sacramento, so I was back indoors. But then that wild hair up your backside starts creeping back out, and I went on another adventure. And so these are just temporary things, and and you take off during the summer times and the spring times when the weather's good, and you end up going back indoors and working during the winters, and spend a a year working or something like that or less, So when you first start, you'll find yourself going into the traveling world and back into the work world, back into the traveling world, back into the work world. And eventually, as you get more used to being a traveler, you actually end up starting to get the knowledge, the bushcrafting skills, and just the experience of actually traveling. You're starting to know these spots that you go to, because like I said, you end up traveling in a circuit and a lot of times seeing the same spots. And eventually you just stop going back indoors and stop taking breaks, and you just end up eventually going full time on the travel, and then that becomes your lifestyle. And like I said, when a lot of people are actually beggars, meaning they spange, that's spare spanging, and they fly a sign holding the cardboard, that doesn't work by staying in one spot. You can only stand on a corner for so many days before people stop giving to you, because now they know who you are. At first, a new face, it looks like someone may be down on their luck that needs money. People are more generous, they'll give you money, right? But they see you keep every day on the same corner for 3 months at a time, they're like, nah, I already gave to you. You're obviously not trying to get out of what you're trying to get it, with your head. And so there's a disadvantage to actually staying in one place. So constantly moving, you're always constantly the new face, And so your moving, begging platform always has to stay mobile. And so it comes down to, you don't have a choice. You can't stop. To stop moving means to start working. And if you stop moving, you lose that mobile begging platform, and now you have to do something else for income. So not everybody is lucky as me, what I'm saying, that has a small pension. And it took me a long time to get here. And even though it's very small, my spending level is always under it, or about with it. But it sure does pay off to actually have a job and make some money and put some money in the bank too. So lesson learned on that one. So do I get bored of it? No, I think I've been doing it long enough that it's now engraved into me, where that to stay in one spot is a little more boring. You know what I'm saying? It's a little more tiring to be in one spot. But then again, I've only been doing this 2 years. I was in one spot for 3 years. I was working that job. So you see, I'm not constantly moving, and before that I was traveling, right? But then there was a section of time when I was actually in Arizona, and for I guess almost 5 years, just kicking back with my pops and my stepmom and stuff, and we were all pulling together because my dad's retired, and like I said, being retired and stuff, and any type of check, you're making such a small amount of money that when a bunch of people together, that are family members, pull all together, and Arizona's a lot cheaper than surrounding states like California and stuff, life can get a little easier. Arizona's still affordable in places. Some spots in Arizona are unaffordable, but so it's, I am always on the move and stuff, but there is downtime. All hobos have downtime. So you have some spots like Dunsmuir, California, is notorious as a hobo retirement area. I heard Maine is, which is kind of crazy because Maine gets cold, but a lot of people are like, oh yeah, no, the old rail riders, the old hobos, all the dirty kids and stuff are like retiring over in Maine. And I'm like, really? I don't know if it's because it's a very liberal kickback state, because the liberal states usually have a lot of a lot of talk and we'll get into that later. They have a lot of, at least the appearance of trying to take care of the homeless and the poor and stuff. But that's kind of another subject, because a lot of the money that does go into these programs and stuff, less than $1 out of every $100 actually sees the actual person it's supposed to be going to, because of all the other pockets it goes through first. And and I've seen this firsthand. So yeah, you give 100, I only see $1, that type of thing. And unfortunately, it's just that way. People are making money off the poor by acting like they're helping the poor. And that's the unfortunate part about a lot of this, these liberal, I don't want to say liberal, it's just because there's a lot of good in certain programs, but they're not government programs. They're like, there's a lot of good in the Catholic Church, and what they actually roll up their sleeves and go out and do things. And but there's government programs that are very necessary, like food stamps and stuff like this, that are completely utilized by the homeless population. But then there's a lot of like if you look at a shelters, like they funnel so much money into a shelter that it's like costing the state over $100 per person that's in a shelter, and that person in the shelter is basically in a crack hotel. You know what I'm saying? That's the quality of life in these shelters are just terrible. It's definitely not showing like $170 lifestyle per day. It's just that money's going into the pockets of other people. So anyway, that's a side trail. Yeah. So when it comes to the question of do we get tired? Yeah, we do. Constantly moving on the bicycle? Not yet, because the only thing that makes me tired on that is the hills. This is a new experience, so it's a new adventure, and yeah. So I'm driven to keep going until I don't need to keep going anymore. It's just like I have more of a time trying to figure out what's the next adventure going to be. What am I going to do next? I did the long trails. I'm doing the bicycling. What book haven't I written yet? In my life, and let's start writing that one too. So, yeah, you'll be bored. You'll get tired. You'll get bored when you first start. But eventually that boredom and that tiredness starts dissipating, and you actually end up becoming bored and tired of staying still, and you get used to the move. All right, guys, that's just another ramble. Not too bad today. It was only a 13-minute ramble. All right, guys, I'm going to hit the road and get out of here. I did no planning, so I'm sorry about that. I did absolutely no planning. I didn't even check the weather. I just really want to get out there and just start pedaling. So give me 1 second and I'll tell you what the plan is. Okay, I just did a little small amount of research. It looks like I'm just going to take the 3 northbound. Accommodation-wise, Thailand seems a lot more expensive. I don't see anything until Bangkok. And Bangkok, the next affordable housing is like 126 kilometers away. So that's a little more than I want to push in one day, especially at this time. This is too late. Maybe if I got up at 5 and left by 6, that would be no problem. But at this time of the day, nah. So I'm just going to camp somewhere in between. Which makes good for good TV, right? No, it is what I do. So it's like I said, I don't want to get too soft by sleeping indoors all the time. Plus, this weather is like perfect. Even if it does rain and I get wet, it's awesome. And it's warm as hell out here. It's great. So yeah, I'll get on the 3. Once I don't feel like, once it starts pushing maybe close to evening, dark, I'll start I'll give myself an hour or 2 before sunset, before my eyeballs start looking around for a spot to camp. And I'll just do the camping thing again tonight, guys, because I'm all charged up. I got 2 things atop ramen. I got some garlic. Maybe I'll pick up a little more groceries just so I have a better night of camping. It's always good to have some good food, good snack items and stuff, and maybe just go, but I can tie my groceries up to my handlebars, and you know what I'm saying. Okay, yeah, that's it. So let's hit the road. All right, guys. It's the 11:19 right now, and I'm starting the Strava app. And here we go. I'm gonna go to 7-Eleven first, get some caffeine. It's a late start to the day, but that's all right. There's some clouds above. I had to actually wrap my bags, even though the weather's not calling for it. I had to wrap my bags in a black garbage bag, because that definitely looks like it's gonna dump a little on me. But first things first, caffeine, guys. That's how I roll. And maybe a banana or two for the road. I think there's one right down this way. Well, I made it down the street a little bit, not too far. It's only 11:40. So I just started out the door, and luckily this 7-Eleven here has a 7-Eleven has a table, because it just started raining. Just as soon as I walked in the door. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up a squat on the benches here, and yeah, just kind of go over the comments and have some caffeine and eat some chicken and rice. Well, it's 12:30. There's a little bit of a break in the rain, but as you can see, there's clouds plenty up there. I had to fix this up front. This is just so when the mud actually, I used to have some duct tape here. If you watched my earlier videos, you saw that I had duct tape, but it was such a long time without rain, I ended up taking the duct tape off. Duct tape's in my bag. So this is just to stop the mud from flinging up this way and out in front of me, and then up and into my face because of my forward momentum. So that's just a quick fix job to stop, mud clinging into my face and on my glasses. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the road. This is just gonna be rain off and on, I think. Weather was saying it wasn't gonna rain, but obviously the clouds decided to differ on that opinion. So, all right guys, I'm gonna go ahead and hit the road. No. Hey, it's 3:54 right now, so it's getting later in the evening. Really late start today, but so I'm only at like 40 kilometers, like 39, somewhere around there, 39 kilometers from where I started this morning. So I was on Google Maps and I actually was able to locate one hotel room that was after taxes and stuff $9, and it's only like 2 kilometers from here. And since that's affordable and it's under 10 bucks, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Even though I said I was going to camp and all that stuff, I'll have plenty of opportunities to camp in Thailand because at least as far as I can tell, the accommodations seem to be higher in Thailand than they definitely were in Cambodia or Vietnam. Vietnam so far seems like they win the pro trophy for like the cheapest accommodations. I was able to find $10 or less hotels all the way through there, and they were hotels too, not like hostels. So yeah, so I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I'm able to find one here. And like I said, up in Bangkok, there are $7, not Bangkok, is it Bangkok? Yeah, when I get up to the Bangkok area, there's definitely $7 hostels and stuff like that, but they're hostels. So yeah, take advantage of the fact that only 2 kilometers from here. I'll go to bed earlier than 2 o'clock like I did last night. Yeah, like I said, I gotta stop doing that. It's just I get wrapped up on the editing or something like that, and I end up staying up all night. So I'll try and hit the sack earlier and start out the door earlier. Heat wasn't an issue today. It was just a late start. That's all. All right, guys, that's the plan. Hello. Check-in, right? I just see Agoda. Okay.
เพจ พอดีชาวต่างชาติ
Pausing
มา
ride.
ชาวต่างชาติมา ใช่ครับใช่ใช่ครับ
Okay, I just got about a 15-minute wait, and then I check into my room, so it's not that bad. It was just real quick down the street here. I don't know what town this is yet. Like I said, I went out the door without actually planning any of the route, so I'll look it up and put the name of the town or city I'm in right down below. Looks pretty nice though. I mean, they have some nice storefronts that I just passed. You saw on the video, and yeah. So I'm just gonna wait and then check into my room, and yeah, that's the plan. Okay, guys. So for the ones that are keeping track of the things that break on my bicycle, I did have another spoke that broke. I zip tied it down to the other one so it's just not rattling around, because I didn't want to take the time to take this off. Yeah, it's one of the old ones again. It's not one of the newer ones. So I'll eventually, I'll get around to actually taking this off and pulling this spoke out. But as for immediately trying to look for a spot to replace it, not yet. So yeah, one more busted spoke. Well, it looks like it's got everything I need. Outside shower room is kind of nice. Yeah, big room for such a. This is the budget one, the fan only room. So you run into a lot of those. I guess they're like really hot. I'm like, I know you're trying to make me do the upgrade to the air conditioning place room, because that's extra $3 or stuff usually. Yeah, so I made it here. I'm gonna put up my feet, kick up my feet for a while, and unload my stuff. And yeah, so I'm at the room now. So today was a very short travel day. Total 41 kilometers from the starting point. I'm just actually going out for a stroll to a vegetarian restaurant that I found on Google Maps. It looks pretty cheap, so I'm just gonna go there and see what's up. And yeah. So it's kind of just like another slow day. Not much material to put on. So I'm just filling in the time right now with a bike ride. Well, the vegetarian restaurant looks like it's closed. So, better luck next time. Yeah, too bad. Like I said, I can eat meat. I just like to have a vegetarian meal once in a while. So I decided just to chicken out and get a hamburger. Yeah, it was like I kind of feel like French fries anyway, so double cheeseburger. I just had to delete the last thing I just videotaped. I ran across the street and got a drink from 7-Eleven. And I turned the speaker on and I was talking to the camera, but the speaker, the mic was in my pocket. So I think I have it recording on the video, on the camera too, but I don't know. I didn't take a chance. I just deleted it. I figured I could repeat what I just said. What I was saying was economically, buying a burger wasn't smart, but because over there it's like for 39 baht I could get that chicken and rice thing, right? And for another 15 baht, add another rice to it. That's a full meal. The hamburger here is like 79 baht, you know, and that doesn't come with the fries. I think with everything it was 180 baht with French fries, double burger, chicken nuggets type thing. I went all in. You know, that was like one of the meal sets. But still, how many of those meals from 7-Eleven could I've gotten? So, But the thing is, I'm just getting tired of eating over there. Honestly, I am. And since it's my go-to thing, they don't have any variation, you know, within 7-Eleven, not within Thailand. Now, if you go to Japan, you know, they have a deluxe. Japan has the best 7-Elevens by far. And they have a huge selection of food. But they also have competitors from Lawson and Family Mart. Those are like the three over in Japan. And they all kind of compete against each other because there's one on every single corner, if not more. So, something I wanted to address is someone asked me about my first time of actually stepping outside of the United States, you know, going from, travels within to international travels. And that got brought up because when I was working, I was saving, right? And I got to the point where I had enough saved up now, after 3 years of just scrubbing poo all the time, that I was like, okay, I can start looking for a small little, you know, 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre, you know, it depends on what I could get, you know. Usually bank possessed properties are the cheapest, and sometimes you can get one with a structure still on it, but all I need is a cement pad, or if it doesn't have that, I'll just do it myself, but whatever's cheapest. So I was like, well, I'm gonna start window shopping around for some property and do the tough shed, like I was saying in my other video, you know, pour the pad myself. They come in, they set up the initial structure, wooden, you know, structure, and then all I have to do is insulate it myself, put some drywall on or whatever. and then convert it into living space, like put a loft in it, you know. That way I have a sleeping quarters up top, and well, that was the plan. But by this time I was already knee deep into like Bible studies and stuff like this, the archaeology, but also, you know, studying Jewish law and different things like this. I studied everything about, you know, the Abrahamic religions. Not so much with the Muslims, but definitely with Christianity and Judaism was my main focus, and it veered more towards, you know, thank you so much. It veered more towards, here, let me show you. This is the hamburger here. Is it worth it? I don't think so. But that's all right. The picture made it look a lot bigger than it actually was. But so I decided before, because if I get a house, a little like tiny off-grid one bedroom, or not one bedroom, like tough shed style, my little living quarters, I knew I was gonna, that was early retirement for me. That means I would, after that, I would be locked down in one spot for the rest of my life, you know, living in a shack, reading books and stuff like this. And I decided before I do that, I want to at least go see the land of the Bible type thing, you know. I wanted to go see Israel and all this stuff. So I went ahead and coughed up the money for the ticket, you know, because that's a big expenditure, you know. It's quite a bit of money to get across the waters, regardless of which way you go. So getting out was very nerve-wracking, to say the least, because I had no idea about international travels. And if you go to Israel, they grill you. I mean, they grill you, not knowing what to expect. They're like, well, do you have a rabbi here? Do you have any family members? Why are you coming to Israel? You know, I was like, it's the land of the Bible. Why I'm coming as a tourist? And it was like, it's almost like they don't want you to come, right? And of course, it probably getting more blown out in my head, because, you know, this is first time international travels, and I'm running into this. Well, I only got a one-way ticket because I figured I'd just come back whenever I could. You know, I planned on staying my whole 3 months down there, but I didn't know when I was going to leave and stuff like that. So I figured just one-way ticket there, and when I want to come back, buy a ticket back, right? So after all that grilling and stuff, they're like, you only have a one-way ticket. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you can't come in with a one-way ticket. You need proof of leaving, you know, that you're going to be leaving after, you know, within your 3 months, or, you know, at your 3 months, right? Visa. And luckily, me being one of those people that are always trying to get to a spot early, you know, I'm always showing up to work early and stuff like this, because I have it's that perfectionist thing. I just don't want to come up short on anything type thing. So I was there at the airport way early anyway, so I was able to get on the Hopper app, is what I was using, and book a ticket to at least Egypt, from Israel to Egypt, because it was really, you know, it was really cheap. It was like $40 to $60. I don't remember. It's either $40 or $60. Because I was planning on canceling it anyway after I, you know, got to Israel. But doing that, I had to learn everything. I had to learn WhatsApp. Everybody uses WhatsApp. I had to learn about SIM cards. I didn't know anything about SIM cards. Luckily, I had this phone that I'm using now. It was brand new at the time. I got it off of, well, newish. I think it was a later model being sold off of Amazon, so I got it for like $300 or something, or less than 300. But it was a tough phone, so it's supposed to be able to go underwater. You can drop it, all this stuff, and it's liquid cooled, and it has a long-lasting battery and all this, and yada yada yada. And so the learning curve was so huge for me. Being a foreigner was very uncomfortable, especially being the introvert that I kind of am. I'm an introvert extrovert, so I got some social batteries. They just wear out fast, and I like my alone time type thing, my hermit time. But yeah, so growing up in America, we live in a bubble. We live in a bubble because we have a big body of water on one side and a big body of water on the other side, and we're a melting pot of all nationalities and stuff like this. But everybody loses their national identity, and everybody becomes Americans, more or less. I mean, there's still a little residue of all our national identities. Like you see that with the Muslims, and you see that, with some of the Chinese people, but not so much. Most people adapt to being Americans, so we're all Americans. It's just like, that was another thing I had to get used to. Not every country's like that. It's like, I'm so used to seeing a Mexican, Black, Asian, this, all around you at all times, that we're all Americans, and you don't realize that other countries aren't like that. You might be the only white person in a place, and you're like, wow, everywhere's not just mixed. And so that was kind of a cultural shock, but also being the foreigner in a foreign country, you're so used to English being the only language that's around you, except for maybe some Spanish if you're in Southern California or Arizona or something like that. And now you are that foreigner in a different person's country, and people don't know your language. And that made it really hard for me to actually eat food, because the embarrassment factor was there, where I felt so uncomfortable being an introvert. I basically went to the store to buy my food, and I would never go into restaurants. I still have that a little bit. I really do. I don't feel comfortable going to a restaurant that I know that they're not going to know my language, right? And to learn each language to every spot that I go is impossible. You know what I'm saying? I learn hello, thank you, and that's about it. Hello, thank you, and that's, but outside of that, it's just hard. So getting out of the United States and traveling abroad has helped me a lot to realize, to ignore that little voice in your head saying, oh, you're different, but it doesn't matter. Eventually I'm just now pretty well getting used to being the foreigner, and I'm comfortable with not knowing the language. And I'm used to being the person that's making the mistakes because I don't know the cultural, I don't know the culture or something like that. Not knowing, like the toilets, they don't use toilet paper. If you want toilet paper, you got to carry around your own. It's all about water and using your hand. Now, if you don't know how to do that and there's a hole in the ground, you're supposed to squat over it. It's like, what if my cell phone falls out of my pocket and into that hole? How am I supposed to get that back? So it's been a real learning curve. It definitely. But I'm just really starting to get used to it, and I'm glad I am, because the more you get used to it, the more you can just ignore the fact that ego is what makes you. That's what makes you uncomfortable. And the loss of an ego is actually the best thing in the world. Anyway, guys, that's 12 minutes. I'm going to leave it there. That's just a little introduction of how I felt when I left the States. And it was all financially the reason why I didn't go back. Because when I got out and I went to Jerusalem's supposed to be expensive. But to me, and I've mentioned this in the past, to me it was cheap. At €20 a night with free breakfast. That only comes out to $600 a month, and with breakfast, you can't get rent in the United States for that. So me going from a tent, in a field, scrubbing poo, to actually having a bed with a hot shower, you know what I'm saying, and a good meal in the morning for $600 a month, I was like, yeah, I could do this. And then when I went to other countries like Morocco and I realized what it's like to be in a cheap country, I'm like, oh, there's no point in me going back. And then I realized, oh, you know what? I can just keep going to this, you know, I can keep checking off the marks for all the places I've never gone and only dreamt of it. Because in my world, and most people that travel in the United States, world travel is for people that got lots of money. That's what we think, but it doesn't have to be that way. I'm proof of that. You can take your homelessness, you can take your vagabond travels, and you can apply it to the whole world. It's easy to live cheap outside of the United States. Actually, it's easier to live cheap outside of the United States than it is inside. So anybody over in the States that don't think that they can afford world travel, you just have to buy that one ticket to get out. That initial $800 to $900 to get out. Then afterwards, it's affordable and it'll pay you back. Your quality of life will actually increase. And yeah, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's just a ramble. I'll slap this in. and so you guys, if you have any questions or you want to just chat it up a little, I opened a Telegram board that I will constantly jump back and forth and make sure that I'm answering any questions or just to chat in general and chat amongst yourself, guys. That way there will be no like censorship or no comments getting lost or, you know, buried in the other comments or, you know. So, all right, guys, that's all. There's my little ramble for the time. And later on, I'll get more in depth on some of my travels that I did after leaving the United States and the ones I did inside. All right, bye. Well, the day's over, guys, and it's 6:48, and I'm back at the hotel room. Some of these days are just gonna be boring, and some of them will be adventurous or fun or beautiful. But one thing I could guarantee you, though I'll be honest, it'll be my day and how it actually is. So, we are back. Here we go. It's home sweet home, guys. So that's it for the day, guys. Yeah, not much of anything. A very short day. I only did 41 kilometers on the Strava app. I kept forgetting. I remembered to flip it back on. But I forgot to flip on the location. Sometimes if I'm going to stay in one spot for a certain amount of time, like at the 7-Eleven when it was raining, I flipped off my location and I turned the Strava app back on, but I forgot to put the location on, so it docked me something like 5 kilometers or something. And yeah, so you'll see that if you look it up. But I just you know, sometimes I'm gonna have videos that are just boring. You know what I'm saying? It's just because nothing happened in the day or I didn't do anything and stuff like this. But I still want to be posting every day, regardless of how small it is, even if it's just a 5 or 10 minute video, just to show that, hey, I ended up sleeping all day or something, you know? So this I'm gonna put out there. Not much. I babbled a little, just to fill in time, but yeah. So just a boring day and a short day. Yeah. So we'll continue tomorrow, and maybe we'll have something exciting happen. Who knows? We'll have to find out. All right, guys. Good night, y'all, and see you tomorrow.